Okay, so let me just recap what we have discussed previously. So if you recall, we have start off with different type of erosion, right? With splash erosion. Then we discuss about sheet and interrel erosion, real erosion. Then we discuss about gully erosion. Then various erosion that occurs nearby the bank of the river, such as the erosion caused by direct and secondary current. Then erosion caused by wave action, then the sudden drawdown during the flood recession, then failure due to seepage, all these things we have discussed. Then we move on to the erosion control through green infrastructure. So we in this I have said that this kind of solution actually it varies from places to places. So for us to for us to decide which type of measures we should consider, we should know what is the cause of failure. We should see the available material, locally available material. Sometime we have to incorporate this different solution together, and then for to solve the problem of erosion. For example, here we may use retaining wall in some area, we may use perforated blocks in some part, then we may use grass plantation, then step drains. All these solution may be used together in joining together in order to solve a problem of erosion. Sorry. Then we have discussed a few of the methods that we can use, such as by applying geomat, then by applying geosynthetic mat. The difference between these two is when we need the time periods for support, right? Here in the geosynthetic mat, we use it when we need a long time support as compared to the geomat. Then these are some of the practical example that I have shown you. Then we also discuss about articulated concrete block in last class. Then we talk about palisade, whereby how in this if we construct this kind of a structure, so the current direct current can directly attack the bank, so it will instead attack this structure, so thereby the velocity will get reduced, the sediments will get deposited here, and that sediment itself will act as a protection, right? Then we talk about the porcupine structures. The main advantage of this structure is that when water try to overturn this kind of a structures, because all the sides of the structures are are equal in nature. So even if the water overturn it, it will again gets a balance position immediately. So in that way, the what there are chance of uh, taking it away by the river is very less, and that's why this structure is very popular, right? Then we discuss about geoback and geotube. I said that most of the time, if stones are available, then we go for revetment. We put some kind of a stone here in order to protect this bank. However, sometime it may happen that boulders are not available. In that case, we go for a geoback, right? These geobacks are nothing but they are textile bags with high strength, and then what we do, we put the sand material that is available near the shore, we put inside this bag, we tie it in a proper manner, and we lay it here in order to protect the bank, like you see here, right? Here there is a geobag, here there are porcupine structures. And then I have also shown you one real example how to address some bank failure. Suppose this is a natural bank failure. So what we do here, first of all, before applying any solution, we have to dress this bank properly with proper angle of repose. Once we dress it in this way, then what we do, we start laying the net, corn net, or some kind of a mat, and then in between the mats we plant some vegetation. Also at the toe, what we do, we provide some kind of a geobag along with bamboo pool so as to tie this back. Then with time what happened? The net will deteriorate. However, by the time it deteriorates, we will have some kind of vegetations here, which will act as a permanent structures, permanent preventions against erosion in this kind of a failure. Okay, so let us continue with this. Let us now discuss another kind of important prevention in case of a riverbank erosion, that is a drop structure. Sometime what happens sometime in case, especially in hilly regions, right? In hilly regions we have a very steep slope like this. The river is flowing in a very steep slope. So if the river is flowing in a very steep slope, it may even flow with a high velocity, so it may erodes the bank and all. So what we do, we will try to reduce the slope of a river. So what we, in order to reduce the slope of a river, what we do, we create some kind of a drop structure. So we construct here different kind of a drop structure. Okay, so this is a river with high steep, so we place some kind of a drop structure here. So because of the presence of this drop structure, what happened now, the water will not be able to flow at the high speeds, because these structures, they they prevent the flow of water with high speed. So the water will encounter these structures, the velocity will reduce, the energy of water will be reduced. And if this river carries sediment along with it, it will start to deposit silt around here. So because of that, eventually with time, the slope of this river will get modified. So we place some structure here. This structure will reduce the velocity. Because the velocity is reduced, sediments will get deposited here, and then eventually it will modify the slope of this river, which have a very large gradient. So some kind of a structure which we generally put as drop structure may be very simple structure like timber and all. Let me unlock the meeting. Sometimes a very simple structure like timber and all. Sometimes we put a ware structures, sometimes cabins. So see here. So we see in this picture, for example, here it may, the slope may be very high. So what we do, we put some kind of a ware here in order to reduce the slope of this particular river. Sometimes we put this kind of a structure, okay, different kind of a structure. Sometimes even with stones, hole with net. So this is called as cabin structure. This is generally used for a for small river. For small river, we can use like this, or we can construct some kind of a weir, or some kind of many kind of a drop structures in order to reduce the slope of a very large gradient rivers. So if we place this kind of a structures, then the sediments will get deposited here, and it will modify the slope of the river with time. So it will reduce the large gradient that is present in the river. So is it clear? Is it okay? Hello. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine then. Fine then. So now, see, so far what we discussed, let me show you. What we discussed, in order to protect the bank, what we do, we generally place some kind of a concrete block, right? Then we place some kind of a revetment, we place some kind of a geoback, but it may happens, let me go to this slide. It may happen sometime, okay? It may not be possible to protect this bank with revetment, with geoback and all. So what we do in that case? In that case, we are not going to place here entire of this embankment with stones or with geobacks and all. So what we do, we try to divert the flow from that bank which is prone to erosion. So what we do, we create some kind of a hard point structure here. Here, hard point structures, here we create these structures. So if you see, if we create this kind of a structure now, the water, instead of coming like this and erode this curved portion, the water is flowing like this now. See, once the water flow like this, then this bank will be protected. So it may not be possible always to place revetment, to place jawback. So in that case, how do we protect this bank which is prone to erosion? We try to divert the water by constructing some kind of a structure. So the idea here is the flow should not come near the bank. Okay, we should deflect the water from that bank which is prone to erosion. So what happened here? This kind of a structure, if you see here, this is uh, if you zoom the structure, it will look like this. Okay, so the majority of the structure is invisible. Here is written, majority of the structure is invisible as the lower part of the structure consists of rocks. All these are consists of rocks which are placed underwater. And the upper part of this structure is covered with topsoil. You see here, topsoil. And then on this soil, we plant some locally available vegetation. So whatever structures which we try to divert the water, most of the structure, majority of the part of the structure is covered with water. It's invisible. It's made of stone. If you see here, okay, stone river. However, the upper part of the structure, what we do, we cover it with soil and then we plant some locally available material, some locally available vegetations on this soil in order to protect this bank. Here we are not putting entire revetment or geobank on this bank. We just want to protect this portion which is prone to erosion. So what we do, we just divert the water. So let us go in detail about this. So this kind of a structure, okay, a structure or embankment which is projected at a fair distance from the bank into a stream in order to deflect the flowing water are called as spurs or groins. These are very popular structures whereby we used to protect the bank of a river. These structures that are deflected, they are used to deflect the water are called as spurs or groins. So sometimes, okay, we not only place single spurs here because sometimes we want to protect this entire bank. So what we do, we place a series of spurs. You see here, suppose we want to protect this entire bank here, so we place a series of spurs like this. So these spurs will deflect the water and will prevent this bank from being eroded. So if you look clearly, okay, so if you zoom between two spurs here, so what you see here, here there is a regions of low velocity because the water is being deflected, right? But the water is being deflected. So this area between two spurs, this will be a region of low velocity zone. So because of this low velocity zone, here deposition will take place and which will prevent the bank from being eroded. Apart from that, apart, so the main function of this spurs is to deflect the water to prevent the bank from erosion. Apart from that, spurs are also, they can be used to channelize a widely poorly river into a well-defined river by putting a series of spurs of different size and shape. See here, initially this river is like this, right? It is poorly, I mean, is very wide and poor, is not in a proper shape. So if we put different kind of a spurs here, spurs may be like this, it may be in this kind of a shape, okay? So if we put this kind of a spurs now, what happened? You see now, the water is channelized in a proper way. Initially, the water is flowing like this. This is the bank, right? It's not properly channelized. Uh, Plus, it erodes this portion. Now, if we put some kind of a spurs here, this spurs, this another spurs of different shape, right? Then apart from protecting this bank from being eroded, it also provides us a properly channelized river. This is called as a projected river because of the presence of the spurs, because the spurs will try to deflect the water. So also apart from this, okay, now see here, initially this is the area, right? Now we, because of the presence of spurs, the water starts to deflect in this way. The area is reducing. Because we are contracting the river, what happened? The depth will increase here. So in some case, we also use spurs to contract the river in order to improve the depth for navigation. So when we have sufficient depth here, and then this river can be used for navigation, right? Initially, the depth here is very low. So what we do, we use spurs to deflect the water. So now the width is reduced, thus the depth will increase. So with increase in depth, this area can be used for navigation. So now how do you place this spurs? Okay, this is very important. Spurs are of two type. Okay, one is impermeable and permeable. Impermeable, basically the water cannot pass through this spurs. In case of a permeable spurs, sometimes spurs are permeable, made of stones and all, so in that case the water still can pass through it. So In case of a impermeable spurs, it should not be projected. Uh, it should be projected less than 15% of the channel width. This is the width of the channel. So if the spurs is impermeable, so it should not be projected more than 15% of the channel width. However, in case of a permeable spurs, we can project it less than 25% of the channel width. Clear? Or should I repeat this part? Let me again tell you what is a function of spurs. Spurs is nothing
Repeat,
but,
sir. Repeat.
okay. So let me again tell you why do we use spurs, because this is very important. Okay. Sometimes it's not possible to protect the bank with revetment or with joe bags and all. So what we do, we try to divert the water. So how to divert the water? We construct some kind of a hard point structures which is made of stones and all. Okay, this kind of structures, hard point structures. So when you construct this kind of a structure, the water, instead of flowing directly like this and erode this bank, the water is deflected like this. See, so this is just one spurs if we want to just protect this small portion. However, it happens sometime that we want to protect this entire bank, right? So in that case, we have to place a series of spurs in this way. See, if we place a series of spurs, then this entire bank will be protected. Because why? So if you zoom, say we take this two, the area between these two spurs here. So if you zoom this part, you see that in this portion, because the water is deflected like this, in this area between the spurs, the velocity, we have a low velocity zone. So because the velocity is low, hence it will not erode this bank, and also it will cause some kind of sedimentation here which will protect this bank. Okay, this is one function of a spurs. Apart from that, suppose this kind of a channel here, right? This channel is not properly channelized. So if we place some kind of a spurs here, structures which deflect the water of different shape. Here, this is an L shape, right? And then different shape depending upon the functions. So if we place this spurs of different shape, then it will properly channelize this channel. Instead of having this channel like this, very curved channel. So when we place spurs, the channel is properly channelized. Another function whereby we use spurs is that when we want to raise the water level, water depth for navigation. Once you put spurs, the water will be deflected, the area is reduced now, no? The area of water flow is reduced, thus the depth will increase. If the depth is the width is reduced, the depth will increase. So because the depth is increased, then we can use it for navigation purpose. Now how you should project this spurs, up to how much you can project it? So it depends upon whether the spurs is permeable or impermeable. In case the spur is impermeable, you can project it up to less than 15% of the channel width. First of all, you measure how much is the width of the channel, and then the area whereby you can project it should be less than 15% of that channel width in case of impermeable spurs. In case of a permeable spurs, you can project it up to 25% of the channel width. Clear? Is it clear? See here, you see here. So this is being done in a model, okay, in a computer. If you see here, because of the presence of this spurs, okay, if you put spurs here and then if you run some kind of modeling in a computer, some kind of software, you can do this in HECRAS. So you see that the channel now is being properly channelized. This area is being protected because we put this kind of a spurs. So this is the role of spurs. So is it clear before we go into the details, the plan and sectional view of a spurs? Is this clear? What is the function of spurs? Clear to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine then. So you see here in that yesterday I share one PDF. Okay, so in that PDF you will see the details of this how different type of spurs are there, and then there's the different plans of spurs, how to design spurs. As of now, we'll not go into the design part. So because okay, if we have time, we will go into the design part. So see here, this is the plan of a spurs generally. I've written here clearly so that because I'll be sharing this PPT with you so that you can read what does this sectional represent. Okay, so let us see. First, let us consider this sectional point XX. This is section XX, okay, and this is section YY. So if we take two sections here, this is a plan view, okay, this is a plan view of a spurs. If you take this section XX here, it becomes like this, and section YY is like this. So what is written here, okay? So spurs is nothing but it's like an embankment, just embankment having some kind of a stone pitching. So if you see here in this part XX, this portion, if you draw the sectional view of this, it become like this. It is like an embankment whereby we put some kind of a stone pitching both ends. And then what else it says? It says that the top width of this embankment should be varies between 3 to 6 meters. So this top width here, you see, this is a top width, right? Because you have to raise the spurs like this. So at this particular section, this top width is around 3 to 6 meter. And then we have to provide some freeboard which is between 1 to 1.5 meter. So this is the highest flood level, right? The water will reach up to this point. This is the highest flood level. So from the highest flood level up to the top of this embankment, the freeboard generally we provide between 1 to 1.5 meters. So if you go in detail in that PDF that I've given you, these things are written. So all these things are written there. Then what else we provide? We provide some kind of a stone revetment on both sides. And then we also provide some kind of a launching apron here. This apron is called as a stepwise apron. You see here in order why we provide these aprons, so as to protect it from being from scouring. Okay, so here you see we have different stepwise of apron. This thickness of how much a stone pitching you should provide is already written in this pictures in the plan view. So here we provide a 1.25 to 1 meter stone pitching, and then here again, so here everything in these pictures, you will see how much thickness we have to provide in this apron in order to protect it from scouring. And then if you look at the Y section, generally we provide only stone pitching at the downstream end. At the upstream, we do not provide any stone pitching. Here is also already written. So generally, it's not necessary to have the revetment at the downstream. Sorry, at the upstream we provide this revetment here in this section. At the downstream we do not provide any revetment. So this spurs, if you look it clearly, is nothing but a embankment with stone revetment. So we generally provide, whether I have any pictures of spurs here. Oh yeah. But generally it's nothing but an embankment with stone revetment. So this, you just raise this portion, protect it with stones, and then so as to deflect the water. This is basically a spurs. Okay. So uh, spurs can be of different type. This spurs or groin, sometimes we call it groin. It can be of different type. It can be a repelling or reflecting spurs. In that PDF, all these things are written in details. It can be a deflecting spurs. It can be an attracting spurs. It may be a T shape, a hockey shape, a kin shape. So let us see some of this kind of a spurs. Okay. In case of an attracting groin or spurs, you say, so here this spurs points downstream in the direction of flow. This is a spurs, and we generally put this spurs at an angle of 45 to 60 degree towards the downstream end. So what happened here? So in the upstream, you see, when the water flow like this, in the upstream, the velocity will be very high. Okay, and this area need to be protected with stone because it will be eroded. Here we have very high velocity. However, now once it reaches this portion, the velocity here will be very less, and in that case silting will start to occur here, and it will prevent this bank from being eroded. So the main thing, when do we use this kind of a spurs? When we want to protect this bank here. If you want to protect this bank here, we project this kind of a uh, groins or spurs, which is called as attracting groin. Why attracting? Because this is attracting the water. See, the water is attracting like this. Here we have very high velocity, And in this area, we have very low velocity. That's why this bank will be protected. And here silting will occur, whereby deposition of silt will take place and will prevent this area from being eroded. The second type of groins or spurs is called as a repelling groin here. See here we are projecting like this at an angle of between 45 to 60 degree. Here we provide it like this at an angle of 60 to 80 degree. Here should be 80 degree. Okay. So here again here you see. Now in this case, this area is protected. This area is protected here because the water is flowing in this way. So here we'll have a very low velocity, and here this is called a still pocket, whereby the deposition will take place here, and then it will prevent this area from being eroded. Another type of spurs is called as deflecting groin. Here actually is we project it 90 degree like this. So it is very shorter in length and it is built perpendicular to the bank, and it can only deflect the flow locally. So let me share that PDF, I think. Let me share that PDF and I'll show you what to study. So this book that I have shared yesterday, this is a very good book, and you can buy it. It's only something 90 rupees something. So this is being published in 2016. So it's 90 rupees only. You can buy this, or you can just take print now of the PDF. Oh, where is the section? One second. This you can study this area, this part. This here, page number 135 all up to 141. Here you'll see there are some impermeable spurs, permeable spurs, then types of spurs, the location, how much inclination you should put, what is the height, what is the spacing between impermeable spurs. All these things you please take it as a homework assignment. I will try to explain again next class, but you also study a little bit before the next class. Take this as a assignment. Study a little bit from page number 135 up to page 144. Okay. So here you will see in this PDF, you'll find the types of spurs, how where you should provide this kind of spurs, what is the length that you should provide, what is the inclination of the spurs, what is the height, what is the spacing between the two spurs, and then you also you'll see the cross sectional of the spurs, and then you'll see about the impermeable and permeable spurs. Okay, so you please read this, and then in the next class maybe I will again. If you have any problem, you let me know. I'll again explain this in detail. So whatever we discussed today, any doubt? Any doubt? Anyone want to ask any question?
Sir, explain permeable and impermeable.
Okay. So permeable and impermeable, basically impermeable mean the water cannot pass through it. Okay, so it's made of different materials in such a way that the water cannot pass through it. However, in case of permeable spurs, so it's made of some kind of a materials. If you go in the PDF, you'll find it. So it's material whereby the water can also seep through it. Okay, it will not destroy the spurs, but it will not be able to pass with high velocity. But some part of water will be able to seep through the spurs. You please go in that PDF. It's written clearly about this. So if you still are not able to understand, then you ask me. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, then I'll end today's class here. Next class again we'll continue. Okay. If you have any doubt, you can always contact me. But please go through that PDF. Okay, you can leave the class.
Thank you, sir.
Pero